So welcome to part B or part 2 of the TED Summit podcast. So this is the Truth in Telecoms, where I have a chat around all the goings on in programmable comms, CPaaS, or whatever acronym you like to use, with Johnny. So Johnny, we had the trilogy on the TCR, and one of the things that I've referred to TCR Acquisition in my newsletters in the past, when there was all the kerfuffle between you and Kaleyra, but I didn't spend any time on that first weblog about, with Rick Joyce's post. So maybe you can introduce what TCR Acquisition is about, the people involved, and we can just randomly walk on from there.
Okay, well, I'll start at the beginning. So Rick Joyce was a former chair of Venable, which he built a $250 million a year practice in DC. I call him the Elvis of lawyers because I'm an Elvis fan, I guess. I'm a little old. He went on to become, after he was my attorney for Irish Wireless that beat Cineverse. Yeah. It wasn't me that beat Cineverse. It was Rick Joyce that beat Cineverse because, first of all, not too many people would have enough guts to take them on, but he took me on and saved me. Mm-hmm. And then he once I settled my suit with Cineverse and then got involved with Tintech and restructuring that company and going through that nightmare, he had then gone on to, and I think at the time, that's when the election was going on, and Rick was a staunch Democrat, very big Democrat. I think he was going to, I'm not sure about this, but I think he was going to get like a cabinet seat or something if Hillary had won or whatever, but obviously that didn't happen. And Rick was then, obviously he's got 4 kids and retired from Venable and wanted to go serve his country. And he went and got called on by the Coast Guard, and he became the chief counsel, head of cybersecurity for the U.S. Coast Guard. Handled CFIUS events, handled all kinds of events, held the highest security clearance you can get anywhere. So what happened to me is I was talking to an old friend of mine on and off for years. Many years ago, Irish Wireless, when I was going through my litigation, we had to move from network to network to network. So Iris got kicked out of their POP in Dallas, and then I had to move it to another company, and then I moved it to Hook Mobile, and then I moved it to Impact Telecom. I moved it all the way around, and then to Tintech. So I literally moved the binds 5 times from the beginning of the litigation to the end. Wow. So along the way, I became very friendly with the guys at Hook, and one of the founders there, Bill Peters, great guy, best CFO in the industry. I mean, he founded InfoMatch. He went through 5 CFOs over there. He's a former Air Force major. So he was the guy that actually taught the Top Gun pilots how to fly. Yeah. And, most honest, smartest mind I know. So he came to me, called me one day. We were looking at some different projects and wasn't even telling me. He goes, "Oh, Johnny, we're allowed to do a management buyout of this company I founded." So and then he starts explaining to me, because we were talking for a year, and I didn't even know what the campaign registry did or whatever it was. And at the time, we were still going through the process at Tintech, where we were trying to sell it. Scipio Partners was trying to sell it, and Thorsten was trying to buy them out. And it's been a long process there, which we'll get to some other day. And him and his partners came to me and said, "Look, they just tried to sell the company to Twilio." Yeah. And Twilio obviously didn't like the price tag, I guess, or what have you, or I guess had enough monopolies. I mean, they owned ZipWhip. They bought that for $850 million, and obviously made a large investment in Cineverse for $750 million. And I'm not sure where their market cap was at the time, but when they made larger acquisitions, their market cap was $80 billion. Now it's like 12 or whatever, for whatever reasons. So, and it's kind of funny because what I was told by the guys at the campaign registry is, Dario Kaleyra wanted to sell it to Twilio because they're losing $300 billion a year in spam, because I guess people make money off spam. So maybe they'll buy it. So, and it didn't work out. So then they came to me and said, to me and 2 other people, and put us under NDAs. And although one of the other guys didn't even actually sign the NDA. So my NDA is null and void, but that's another conversation for another day. So then we proceeded to have discussions. I proceeded to have discussions with the management team, the co-founders of the campaign registry. Then I went to Rick Joyce and I said, Rick, take a look at this. And normally Rick blows me off when I send him stuff because he's like, I'm retired, leave me alone. I don't want to hear this. I'm done with you. And this time he didn't do that. He basically said, Johnny, this is a problem. Get out of my way. I'm like, get out of your way. He said, yeah, they can't own this. I'm like, okay, well, you have this top security clearance this country has, and obviously I have a hard time getting out of a Target without getting pat down. So and that's just a joke. But at the end of the day, so we put together an offer. Obviously, half of the management team, the campaign registry, didn't like it. They actually wanted me to give them the money personally so they can go do a deal personally with Dario, and they wanted to lock hands and walk out because they didn't feel they were being treated well by the mothership in Italy or wherever it is.
Yeah.
And so we sent an offer to them, didn't hear anything. Then Rick made the offer publicly.
Yep.
And then it just started a firestorm, which, I was just part of Rick's team. I mean, Rick's goal was, hey, this needs to be owned and controlled independently. Number one, not by a CPaaS company.
Yep.
Now, talk about the fox guarding the hen house. I mean,
exactly.
Beyond comprehension on that one. But also, Rick had a major problem with spam and the fact that, there's still 50 billion text messages a month hitting people and, all kinds of attacks. And I think you got one yesterday targeted at you directly. And that was, you got a targeted attack. That didn't happen from a hacker. That was a targeted attack that people that have access to certain peering agreements.
Yes.
So then they came back and I guess their stock went crazy. So it shot up in the morning.
Yep.
And then by noon, it started coming down because I think people started reading, oh, wait a minute, they only want to buy the campaign registry.
Exactly.
Or I don't know what happened at that point. And then they halted trading on the stock.
Gotcha.
So they halted trading on the stock, and then they put out a press release saying, well, this was unsolicited, and which couldn't be farther from the truth because they brought me in.
Yep.
And then, obviously I've sent you a bunch of stuff already on that I have, which you're still trying to catch up on because it's been a year of whatever. And this battle started with basically, Rick, and then bringing in his friends and a group of experts. And, one of his friends was also the admiral, was a former head of the Homeland Security FCC. And he's the guy that actually shut down Huawei.
That's right. That's right.
And that's, the admiral, I met him once and he had his comment like, you're very valuable. So I put that on my LinkedIn. They calls me valuable, but that's Rick's best friend. And look, they had a problem with everything they found, and everything that Rick put in his press releases and documented in open letters was right off their filings.
Yes.
So it's not like anybody made anything up.
Yep.
And so we had this little back and forth going on, and Rick tried to reach out to the carriers and different people, and I guess nobody seems to care.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, just recently, he wrote that letter to the Washington Post that I kind of sent over to you, which I'm not sure how happy he was that day about it. But at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Well, this kicked off, I think, a very valuable discussion.
Well, I mean, look, he sent something over. There's the whole concept of the campaign registry is important.
Yes.
And it's important. But I mean, from my perspective and your perspective, I don't see how the operators are not responsible for their consumers. Their consumers, I pay my phone bill to one of the big three operators.
Yes.
They should be responsible for protecting me from spam or robocalling. But that's a whole other detailed conversation that they tried to talk about at MEF the other day, which I love listening to stuff at MEF, especially when Dario's talking. I think he really tries to ask the hard questions, and everybody kind of looks around going, Dario, don't say that. You're not supposed to say that. So, look, you put together a lot of great stuff in there. And then just it became, quite frankly, a crazy town.
Yeah.
And then then there's some whistleblowers that came out.
Yes.
And I actually got very friendly with the chairman of Kaleyra, a guy named Avi Katz. He's a gentleman that is Avi Katz, Gig Capital, and
Exactly.
talk about a smart guy. I mean, talk about a guy that can just. I mean, if I leave him alone for 10 minutes, you'll be asking for $10, and by the time you're done, you'll be giving him 20 and a back rub. The guy's really good. The guy is really good.
No, he's smart.
So they fired one of those whistleblowers or one of the people, and I got back involved having conversations with Avi as far as because I didn't think Avi was actually involved. I'm like, here's this guy who's got 4 SPACs, now a 5th one. He's the chairman. What the people in Milan are doing to the finance team. I mean, they fired the entire U.S. finance team. Over there. I mean, so you've kind of reported on some of the stuff there. I mean, you could basically go public in the U.S. and put out something in your 10Ks or 8Ks and basically say, oh, well, you can't come get us because we're in Italy and nah. And which
I didn't believe. I seriously didn't believe.
It's right in their filings. Everything is in their filings. So look, I proceeded to try to help Avi settle with one of the whistleblowers. And the problem that I think here is Kaleyra has the best lawyers that American shareholders can buy. I mean, their lawyers are insane. Really good. They ripped apart 2 of the lawyers that one of the guys had. I mean, now they're represented by the former general counsel of the SEC. I mean, I can't even imagine what he's billing. So look, I mean, powerful group, powerful people, a lot of money. I mean, you did some great reporting on that stuff that you dug up on, which I'm not really sure where you got that. Pretty interesting. On the multiple SPACs, and I think it was like 7 billion wiped out, and now they're all trading at whatever. But obviously, SPACs are SPACs, and everybody did it. I think Credit Suisse had like 50 SPACs. I mean, all the major institutions were doing SPACs. So who knew? You know what I mean? So I started working with Avi and trying to settle this, and he then had them talking to DL Piper and inside guys and internal investigation, and that's where it really got crazy. And promises were made and not kept. And then as of I think it was August 14th, I think I sent you my text. Where me and Avi again spoke. Where he wanted to do the right thing by one of these guys. Or not. I mean, because the lawyers that he hired are just making up stories out of just complete insanity, just trying to brush this thing off. And obviously, there's now a sale for Tata, by Tata, or actually a bailout from Tata. I mean, Tata's bailing out the company. But I mean, that's neither here or there. So, look, here where we are. Rick Joyce. I mean, the letter speaks for itself. So here's somebody basically who has way more qualifications than I do, that can't be heard. So he's looking to be heard. And obviously, I don't know how much traction you're getting other than, a lot of people not wanting to look and read what you had to say, and a lot of people not wanting to understand it. I mean, the whole ecosystem is really under a really attack by spam attacks and all kinds of complicated fraud attacks. I mean, I'd love to listen to Chris Drake. He's the guy I guess all the TV shows go to. He's at iConnective. And ironically, iConnective, that's former Belcore. So they run the short code registry. I mean, they went through CFIUS and they're like, Belcore? Like iConnective is probably the most legitimate company in the United States, bar none. I mean, you ever hear anything going around with short code? No. Why? Because they're there.
Exactly.
So how does this entity, the campaign registry, get created? No oversight from anybody.
No.
I mean, if you look at some of the FCC filings, they're like, oh, yeah, well, we don't really want to do stir shaking on messaging. We got this thing called a campaign registry, and please don't look over there. But meanwhile, there's 51 attorney generals that are saying, hey, what's going on here? Because people, I mean, what's more critical to your phone and a text message? It's the only thing you have to open up on your phone. And I mean, I have a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. He's like, I got this text message. I said, well, what did you do? He goes, oh, of course I answered. I said, why would you answer? He goes, I can't help it. I
Yes.
I got to answer. So you have certain people that are highly intelligent that just say, well, he texted me, I got to respond.
Yeah.
Obviously now a lot of people don't answer unknown calls. Me, I love answering unknown calls because I'm thinking, well, who could it possibly be from somebody from the past? But, there's some crazy statistics that they put out at MEF, which again, I loved the first half. I don't know if you got a chance to see the fraud, the 40 guys from 2 days ago. Yeah, Dario Betti was great. He really did a great job trying to really ask some hard questions.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, it became like a game of I don't know,
establishment,
softball. And look, you've got all these companies trying to find solutions, but at the end of the day, what happened at the campaign registry, it was just wrong, and what happened to a lot of people was wrong.
Yes.
And you're reporting, and more stuff is going to come out, and it's not about me or you.
No,
it's about the facts. So
exactly,
I've gotten all kinds of attacks and letters and this and that, and I could really care less. I mean, like, are you worried about being sued? I'm like, for what? What are they going to sue me for? Telling the truth. So I mean, but we can get into that on another day. So
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Rick Joyce is he's the real deal.
Oh,
and
I mean, his letter.
I seen this story the other day. I was like, I tried to contact Rick Joyce and he didn't get back to me. I said, Rick contacted the Washington Post, not you, who were sitting in some basement somewhere in some other country saying, oh, you're a xenophobe or you're this. I'm like, really? So, it's comical. But yeah, I mean, if Rick told me to go, walk off a bridge, I'd walk off knowing that there was something there to save me. So,
exactly,
the level of respect I have for him. And like, we'll see what happens. Yep. I mean, clearly it's a step up going from Kaleyra to Tata at the end of the day. And who knows what's going to happen there. I mean, for the price that Tata paid, which is basically, here, take it, please. That's another conversation. I don't know who's doing their diligence. I talked to another company a few weeks ago. It's like, oh, I was just a few months away from getting the $100 million to buy Kaleyra. I'm like, outside of the campaign registry and Mgage, which is, so basically they're a double CPAS.
Yes.
That are running the campaign registry. And then there's this whole thing about not having numbers, which is really staggering.
Yes.
That Randy Warshaw kind of unfolded that at the MEF a few months ago. He kind of brought it up in a session because, Randy was at Real Networks, and, Randy's this guy's been around forever, and, he's built everything out there, and you rotate numbers and do all kinds of things.
Exactly.
And then there's the economics of it. And look, at the end of the day, they're all, Twilio's, 80, 90% of all campaigns in the US, which is another conversation that you keep bringing up. But that goes back to the beginning. I mean, remember the early days when Twilio was getting shut off every week when they first started.
When they started.
Every week they were getting shut off. And if it wasn't for a gentleman named Doug Gardner, who was at Twilio, and Michael Hazard, brilliant attorney. He was at Jones Day. I think he's at DL Piper now. I'm not sure.
Oh,
but, they basically, if it wasn't for them, there'd be no CPAS.
Correct.
Forget Twilio being public. There'd be no CPAS. So how do you find the balance? How do you find the balance? I mean, the operators have found the balance because now they're charging a half a penny for unregistered. I mean, for registered, and a penny for unregistered, which doesn't really deter any spammers.
No.
So a spammer who's not going to pay their bill anyhow is saying, "Oh, I got to pay a penny."
Yeah.
And it's just a cluster.
Yes.
And who's getting hurt? So
it's the
who's
consumer.
getting hurt is the American consumer, American people. And look, for me, the biggest problem that we have in our country, because I'm not political at all, and the minute they get rid of lobbying, I'll maybe pick a side. Legal bribery, but that's anyhow another conversation.
Yes.
I don't want to get in trouble on that one. But look, it's a big problem.
Yes,
it's a really big problem. But I mean, look at we were talking about it before with your guest. I mean, people are dying. Some kid died in a neighborhood over here taking a Percocet that was laced with fentanyl.
Yeah,
that's a crazy problem.
Yes,
kids are dying left and right all over this country, and what are we talking about everywhere? So. Yep. Fraud is a problem. Who was hacked? Who's hacked every day? Microsoft is hacked. Yep. This one's hacking that one.
Yep.
But if you can't even protect, I mean, you tell me we can't stop spam? We can't stop robocalling? We could do heart transplants with pig hearts.
Yeah.
But we can't stop it. And you've got some of the most brilliant guys that are talking at MEF, and yourself and people in your community.
Yeah.
So how do you find that balance between innovation and not closing things off?
Yep.
Because they're going to find different verticals. It's going to get to a point where people will not open their text messages and not answer their calls.
Exactly.
And why? So, but I mean, I'm sorry I went on a tangent there.
It's okay. We can edit. Don't worry. We'll make it look nice and sweet.
You've edited me a little bit too much recently, but that's okay.
Well, that's why we have you separated in the corner, and we give a public health warning about you.
Yeah, no, the public health warning is just telling the truth. Everybody's like,
exactly.
Oh, why are you so this or so that? I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, I'm not. I was minding my own business. We were trying to sell Tintech.
Yes.
Or however you want to look at for the last few years. And I got dragged into this and just sent something to somebody who understands a little bit about national security. I don't. I mean, my expertise comes in, I guess, whatever, restructuring companies, selling companies, but I know the industry better than anybody. I spent 7 years with, 9 years, 10 years fighting with Cineverse, the Kings. Yes. And then going to Tintech University with Thorsten, who, he could send a text message to Mars through your eyelids. He legitimately can.
It's an amazing platform, amazing technology.
Whether I agree with him on other things is another thing, but, say it what it is. You know what I mean? So that's another conversation for another day. But look, it's really sad. And what's really sad is seeing all these different people, try to keep this stuff from the light. Like the one guy said, oh, they're doing a social media campaign. Where do you want us to go? The Washington Post doesn't want to hear us. Yeah. Nobody wants to hear us.
Yes.
Exactly. Rick's not going to right-wing media. Now, once they really see the stuff that's going to come out soon, they're going to be flipping. So, look, it's a serious asset that I don't think I have I'm not qualified to talk about.
No.
What I am qualified to talk about is, what happened and facts and documentation.
Exactly.
And what happened. And I appreciate you give me an opportunity to come on every week and talk about truth in telecom, because there's quite a bit of it.
Oh, yeah.
And there's just quite a bit of stuff.
And, there's fewer and fewer people, basically fighting for truth in telecom.
Nobody's really fighting. I mean, you've got former heads of FCC. They leave the FCC, then they go to Cineverse. They get on the board over there. Yep. And then, where are you going?
Yeah.
We fought that battle before. Yes. I mean, even Tintech. So Tintech got passed a motion to dismiss after they acquired my assets.
Yeah.
They spent like $7 million. Cineverse went to try to settle with them, and Tintech said, well, we want $100 million in new agreements. Well, they came back to the US. All of a sudden, the judge retired.
Yeah.
And it gets kicked up to a magistrate judge in Georgia. Tintech loses.
Yeah.
But that's a conversation for another day.
Exactly.
Look, there's powerful people.
Yes.
And, I'm tired of getting threats all over the place. At the end of the day, truth
delivers
in telecoms.
light.
I mean, so hopefully you can start putting out some more really good stuff so people can stop pointing at me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just the don't shoot me. I'm the messenger. Although I do get kind of aggressive. I don't like what happened to a couple of whistleblowers. I don't like it. And when that stuff comes out, that's what really gets me the angriest.
Oh, yeah.
What they've done to some really good people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't fly.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
so,
the truth will out. It always will.
And then we can get into talking about all the other questions you have and why Twilio did this and why this one did that. And I've learned from the best. Yeah. So, I'm an information freak. I read a lot. I try to understand everything, like I said, in my past career in the calling card industry, I knew everything there was to know about everybody everywhere.
Yes.
And information is king.
Exactly.
So it just seems, that how something like this can be created in the name of spam. Okay, I get that, but there's a lot of unanswered questions here that shouldn't matter to me, should matter to the rest of the industry.
Exactly.
And the people at this MEF conference.
Yes.
But they're just like, oh, everything's fine and everything's okay.
Yeah.
Except for a couple of guys. One used to work for me. He got up and started yelling. He's a pretty smart guy. He was been in the industry for many, many years, knows his stuff. But
Oh, yeah.
Look, you have the developer community, the innovators, which you represent, and then you have the executive community, or you can call them the soldier community, that are going to do whatever they're told to do and keep your mouth shut and your head down.
Yeah.
And then you have, the bosses behind them saying, how much money are we making? I mean, how much money is being made 2-3 years ago when before you had this A to P and campaign registry, carriers weren't monetizing P2P.
No.
So now they're making billions of dollars.
Correct.
And they're just publicly traded companies.
Yes.
At the end of the day, there's no wizard behind the screen. There's just accountants and lawyers that are saying, shh, keep going, do this, do that.
That's
so
it.
until the public is aware of this, like Rick pointed out to the Washington Post, not just for that. So, Rick's goal is he wanted to acquire it. He wanted to put together a bunch of guys that say they can stop this problem.
Yes. And there's many examples around the world, like in Singapore, where there are very simple registries that solve the problem. So, there are solutions out there, and currently, the establishment isn't solving it for the American public. It's solving it.
Yeah, and sadly, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's ever going to get solved. Or you got all these groups growing. Oh, let's have a think tank with like 100 people. Or what are you going to do? We're going to try to solve the problem. Well, how? And then you got this other stuff that Numerical came out with, and that was kind of crazy.
That was good.
That was really crazy. You know what I mean?
The problems we're seeing in messaging are reflected in voice as well. So
messaging, voice is really, it's sad. I mean, I talk on the phone a lot. I'm not much for text messaging, although I have to message people that don't want to talk.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the greatest medium for marketing, period.
Oh, yeah.
And, and then I was listening to Google talk about they have 1 billion users on RTS, and, they're in the business of, obviously Google brands, companies, we know who everybody is.
It's Google messaging, Android messaging.
Yeah.
It's, it's an SMS client.
I don't see Apple going anywhere with that, though, but that's just.
Well, they have iMessage, and, they're just focused on delivering a closed shop. So that once you're in the Apple ecosystem, you can't break out.
You know better than me, my friend. But anyway. So that's kind of what happened with TCRA. And look, I could think of so many instances of assets that are owned. It doesn't matter if you're foreign. It matters who are you.
Exactly.
Some guy said, well, what about T-Mobile? Okay, T-Mobile is a publicly traded company that's 47% owned by Deutsche Bank or Deutsche Telekom or whatever it may be.
Yep.
Still run by Americans.
Yep.
They're still following, but it's who owns it.
Yeah.
What are they doing? What can they do?
Yeah.
What's going on there? Exactly. And I think in the weeks to come, we'll see. Yep. And you'll have part 4 and part 5, and then we can start to discuss, my Tintech trilogy, which to me is the most amazing thing going on.
It's an amazing case study.
To me, that's what fascinates me. So people want to know what makes me tick. It's what I've been involved in personally. But look, at the end of the day, it's wrong.
Yep.
This can be stopped.
Yep. No, this was excellent, Johnny.
So,
I mean, again, thanks so much for sharing your insights, providing just a little bit of background on a
Alan, you got all the
story.
documents. You got everything from my side.
Yes.
And you got some stuff all over. And thank you for putting some light to us. I wish you were the Washington Post or the New York Times, but
then there would be a lot more attention.
Hopefully one day they'll pick it up. But
yes. And something can be done about it. That's the key.
But will it? We'll see. If you can keep going and people actually start listening to you and reading you and not being told to don't look at what Alan's doing. I'm getting a lot of that.
Don't like or comment on what Alan says.
Don't like or comment what Alan says. Don't do it. So, we get a lot of that off the record, but I appreciate
shows we're doing the right thing. With shows we're doing the right thing.
We'll be doing this for about a year and all the stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But so whether it gets spun off to, it ain't going to get spun off to us at the end of the day. First, there's no numbers in it anyhow. It doesn't even work. So it doesn't even, it's comical.
Yeah.
But nobody's talking about that. Like,
yeah.
Who is it? Like that number in ages for like, oh, things are great. Things are working great over here. I'm like, okay, guys.
I know. You are.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you read Alan's stuff?
Because they're making revenue. The revenue is coming in, so things are great.
Look, I understand the different sides of this. I mean, I think the intent was okay. But I mean, originally, iConnective won the bid with CTIA. And then all of a sudden they decided, well, let's go do business with Kaleyra. Really? So you're going to go from iConnective and Belcor to Kaleyra? Like, what happened there? Like, was there like a heroin party or something that happened? Like, how did that happen? That's a question I still have that I can't get their answer on.
Yeah,
and I'm sure CTIA would love to get their hands on, part of the revenue, because I'm sure they're making a ton of money off short code. But you know what? It works.
Yeah.
It works. How many times you hear about short code fraud? And I understand it. Well, it's harder because it's one way. It doesn't matter. There's a way to do this. So
exactly.